Look, it just slides right over. Look at this. This is going to be taken by the wind.
You know, when I'm looking at a $1.3 million house, stuff like this just hurts my soul.
Okay, so if I add another lava lamp in the background, do you think it'll hide the fact that I need to get a haircut right now? Maybe everybody will just focus on that and they won't be paying attention to me much. But with some of the housing videos I've had on my channel talking about mortgages, average home prices, the rent price going up, housing shortages, people living in malls, people living in long-term motels, I mean, you name it. I think it'd be good to go a little bit more in depth with the new construction that's happening all around the country. Because I know it makes me sound like a boomer, but just with some of the videos that I've seen, they really don't make them like they used to. The new construction looks like the lowest quality houses I've ever seen in my life. All cookie cutter builds that are large square foot homes that bring in a lot of families because they have new modern amenities. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see in the next 10-20 years these houses literally falling apart. And it could end up being legitimately dangerous for a lot of people. So I have a ton of different examples along with some of your comments from previous videos. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But we're just going to start off with a YouTube channel that is an inspector and sees this all the time.
This video is going to provide information of why you should not waive your inspections when purchasing brand new construction. Speed process. They're building these houses way too fast, and you have contractors building on top of each other, and that's how you get some problems. 1 in 10 builders actually has a license, and that's a scary thought of statistics. Look at this. I'm barely touching that. This could come off real easy. One nail. This is how I found it. Where the birds are going to get in. And when you cut your lines here on this fascia, you don't overlap them like that. See that? And that's how water's going to get in. It just slides right over. Look at this. This is going to be taken by the wind. To go in here, you can actually see all the way through to the other side. And then I looked at the gas valve and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This cannot be turned off. That valve is up against the wall. Problem number 2 is I smell gas. So let's do a little test on some gas leakage. Kind of a smaller leak, but it's there.
That's unbelievable to me. And I heavily edited that clip down to about a minute. It is a 16-minute video full of issues. And not only are we seeing terrible build qualities, this is at a premium. They're being built for dirt cheap and selling for $400,000 plus. That's why the median price keeps going up. All of these new modern houses that always have the tag luxury, just so they could add on thousands more to the listing price, all while the inspectors are having field days making entire channels dedicated showing how just unbelievably poor these are made. We have a comment from one of you guys. I'm glad somebody's covering this. I could tell with my eyes how poor the quality is. They cost around $500,000 here for a 3-bed, 2-bath, going up like crazy, no character and soulless houses. I understand what he means. Where I live in North Carolina is the exact same thing. I'm in a townhouse that I'm renting that if you looked it up on Google Maps didn't even exist. And that's why I definitely don't want to own a townhouse here. I'm not going to be renting here forever. But the houses across the street are these $500,000 cookie cutter large houses like this that are probably the exact same build quality. People get massive amounts of land in the middle of nowhere and build these giant houses and start building an entire town and a community around it, and then they get to charge a premium for just these trash builds.
You know, when I'm looking at a $1.3 million house, stuff like this just hurts my soul.
All right, so it's very clear that this is a little practice zone. For any of the framers hired that day that have never used a nail gun, you practice in this little area first, then you can move on to the rest of the house. All right, so look at that wall and look how it looks doubled up. That's because it is. The HVAC guys and the plumbers got their measurements off, and in order to house all of the mechanicals and the plumbing, the framers had to come back and add this additional wall. Imagine how much square footage they're losing on all 3 floors of this house. Not to mention that all of the walls are one thickness, but this one's double the thickness. So you see that stack of wood between the stairs and the floor? So the flooring system was too short to meet the stairs, so they just added 2x6s, just nailed them together just to close the gap. Come on now. That's that good stuff. That's that structural foam. We fill in any gap that we see with structural foam. Oh, we're going to need some more structural foam. They missed a spot.
And that is on a $1.3 million house. So if you see any of these affordable houses for $400,000, $300,000 that are new construction, how do you think the build quality is going to be on those? Another comment from one of you guys: as a building inspector, I could attest to this. The builders are throwing up match boxes with glue and selling them for thousands. It's ridiculous. I'm not a homeowner currently, but my intentions is to buy an older home and fix it up myself if I need to. And I do definitely see people around my age starting to wake up from this. I am happy about it.
Can we talk about new construction homes real quick? I really have an unpopular opinion about this. I know there are a lot of people that are buying homes right now and they feel like new construction is like the best option because it's like modern, it's up to date. But one thing that they're not telling you is that they built the house in like 60 days. So it's probably not insulated correctly. And number two, if the area over there is being re-gentrified, your property tax are going to continue to go up and down. The reason that this is because if they build like a Walmart or school, other homes and other price points, that's going to drive your property tax up. I often get on this app and so many people are crying about this and they're saying that they don't know and things of that nature. And so that usually what always happens in a new construction area. So just my thoughts: get a home that has good bones, that you can add your own personality and style to, instead of it just being super cookie cutter.
So, I mean, that could be another issue. If you are paying premium prices for these brand new construction builds in the middle of nowhere, in a couple years, they could actually be a bit more expensive because your property taxes. I know that that could be vastly different. In New Jersey, property taxes are way worse than it is here in North Carolina, so it does depend on where you live. But I will be honest, I do have my own experiences with some old houses. We'll read this comment first. My house is built in 1900. When I got it inspected, the guy told me it would still be standing strong in 100 years, and the new construction that he inspects will literally be gone in 50. If they're lucky. I wouldn't buy a new construction home nowadays. They were crap 20 years ago and they're even worse now. I don't disagree with that, but even with the good bones and having a older home that has character compared to the new builds right now, it doesn't mean that there are going to be zero problems. Now, when I used to live up in New Jersey with my parents, their house is pretty old, and I have seen my dad have a fair share of issues with the house, with things failing, pipes bursting. I mean, one of the water mains broke and they had to dig up a good portion of the front lawn to completely pull it out and replace it, and that cost thousands of dollars. We've seen water leak in the basement countless times. I mean, even with the build quality being much better than it is nowadays, it doesn't mean that you won't have issues with an older house. So it is definitely a give and take. It's very difficult to have the best of both worlds. I mean, maybe if you find an older house that isn't too old, you won't really have to start replacing things that will inevitably fail. But if you get something new, the build quality definitely seems pretty iffy. It's honestly a catch-22.
Oh no, someone dropped a hammer and now it's lost forever in the walls. Looks like we already got some rodent droppings in the attic space too. Looks like the thing's about to tip over. These I-beam sensors here should be 6 inches or less to the garage floor. So this house has propane gas, but that is a natural gas oven. Now you can install a conversion kit on these if you're going to use propane gas, but when you don't install that conversion kit, this is one of the things that happens.
Some of the comments from this video: people are expecting to pay 30-year mortgages for a house that probably won't be standing in 30 years. These new builds are a joke. Not the smoke alarm beep. Yeah, I know. How is there a low battery on the smoke alarm immediately? The house was just built. Why does it seem the more expensive the house, the worse the inspection? And I know, of course, people's argument for new construction builds is that you actually have to get an inspector like this guy. And unfortunately, during COVID, for a couple years, people were waiving inspections demands, cash offers over asking without even walking into the house. It was unreal. Apparently it was the end of days, like they were never going to build another house again. Now there are people who have to deal with the consequences of these terrible builds because they didn't get somebody like this to actually run through and show the 100 different issues that this new construction build has. Now it does seem like the workers on these houses just do not care. I mean, you saw all the nails, all the wood just stacked up against each other. No craftsmanship whatsoever. But even if you do find a good company and working crew to build these houses, the lumber they're getting is terrible too.
So, whenever people would ask me if they should be buying a house that's new, I would say no. Nah, don't do it. It's a waste of money. You'll be replacing rot in probably 5 years. You wanna know why? Because they sell it to you. They sell you the rot. Every sheet. Every single... I can't even fucking... The fucking peel them apart. Because of how much mold is already on this shit. And this is pressure treated. This is supposed to prevent molding for like 10 plus years. Ironic, isn't it?
And this is also not a one-off video, we'll see a little bit later. Some of the comments from this clip, the quality of everything has gone to just about zero. Not wrong, even premium lumber is getting bad. And I know at the same time during COVID, we had a lumber issue. It was very expensive. Added on to the new construction starting to slow down because they literally could not build it. But we don't really hear too much of an issue about that now. And the lumber that's coming out actually has mold and rot on it. We have another comment here. We recently sold our 1954 house in Florida. It was small, ugly block house and still sold it for $425,000. Took the equity we had and bought a 1945 brick house twice as big in North Carolina for $250,000. They definitely don't live near me because all the houses here are way too expensive. Yes, we had a full home inspection, septic inspection, and we also had a structural engineer inspect the foundation. All those inspections cost around $2,000 and revealed approximately $7,000 needed of repairs. So they got the $7,000 back in concessions from the seller at closing. Always get inspections. And I 100% agree with this, but I think this whole domino effect really did start in 2020. Nobody was getting inspections. They had to buy the house immediately or somebody else would. So everything just ended up getting waived. Then all the building companies and workers started realizing that, hey, even if they have shoddy work, somebody's going to buy it before it's even completely built. Waiving all the inspections as well, and then the homeowner has to deal with all of the repairs or it just falling down. And now we are about 5 years deep into it and everybody's starting to realize that this is just complete crap.
All right, so you hear all the old timers saying how they don't build them like they used to. And I got to tell you, this one missed the mark by a long shot. I'd like to know what their budget was for nails on this project. All right, so this home's going for $1,100,000. So let's take a look at it and see what our money's buying us here. All right, and we'll be honest, this thing looks like the framers lost in a game of Tetris. I mean, what, do they just stack boards up and just see which one fits best? I've seen a lot of framing in homes, but I've never seen this technique. I'd say upwards of 75% of the wall studs in this home were cut in half, and then another stud put right next to it. That's one of the ones you see with the green paint, which I would assume was put there by the framing inspector. Surely the builder didn't think this was going to fly. Oh, but that's not all. Every single plumbing penetration through this concrete slab had to have been redone and re-poured with fresh concrete. Or cut out. Here's a recessed outlet that goes into the center of a living room. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you every single plumbing penetration was redone. Well, they obviously didn't redo that board right there. Split right in half. Because that'll throw them over budget. God, here's that stud again. I mean, did they have to redo every component in this house? The plumbing, the studs? I tell you what I'd do is I'd redo my payment. Ain't paying these jokers.
And I know in this video, we've basically just been talking about the states, but we do have another comment here. As a concreter, I can confirm that builders here in BC, British Columbia, are taking wild shortcuts in preparing for concrete pours, which will fail eventually. So unfortunately, this isn't just a US problem. This is starting to spread everywhere. And I mean, if this gets so bad, you think some of the prices of houses are ridiculous now? When all of these new builds start falling apart and everybody starts flocking to houses that are 50, 60, 70 years old, they will spike and be ungodly expensive because there's going to be somebody out there who will pay an unlimited amount of money just so their house doesn't fall down and completely price normal people out.
Do not buy a home that was built in 2020 to 2022. We are using the cheapest crap. Go back and look at a few of the materials that I've been dealing with. I'm just a siding guy, so I'm not actually the guy building the homes. I'm just the guy wrapping them, and I get to see the framework, the shit that everybody has to deal with after they buy the home. Do not buy a home that was built in 2020 through 2022.
So this guy has been on TikTok for quite a while. He's been basically making these videos while he's been working siding these houses for going on 4 years. He made another video, don't buy a house in 2024, for the same reason. It has not changed at all. And honestly, why would it? Because it's still working out. People are still buying these brand new giant houses for $400,000, $500,000, $1 million we saw. The ROI that the building companies are getting are ridiculously high. And I've even seen some stories about some companies that had really, really shoddy quality dissolving their brand, their company name, you know what I mean, and going on and making a new corporation with a new name, even though they had basically all the same people, just so they wouldn't be able to get sued because, you know, they technically went bankrupt. Very, very bad stories like that just to be able to get out of being sued for how bad their work is. It is a very dangerous world out there right now.
$1 million. You know, initially I thought this was a soft close hinge that was messing up. Then I noticed the top corner of the drawer was cut out like it was hitting on something. Well, heck, it was hitting on a gas line. And cutting the drawer was the best option. Whoop. What's this concrete? 60 days old? Now, if you're one of those people that's walking down a sidewalk and you adjust your stride to be able to miss the cracks so you don't step on them, this ain't the patio for you, I'll tell you. You might as well pack it up and go home. Now, this ain't something I do very often, but I was walking on this tile and it felt like walking on flagstone. And that's why. There's about 7 or 8 windows that the builder had already marked with blue tape to be repaired because the counter springs had popped loose. So I started looking a little closer, and where that spring had popped loose, it busted a hole in the top of that window. So this needs to be replaced, not repaired.
We have some comments from this clip. These builders are getting out of hand. This makes me not want to have a home built. And that is one of the pros I've seen in a new area where somebody does have that kind of money and they want to make a custom house tailored towards their family, and they get to customize the colors of the cabinet, I mean the granite, the wood flooring, the colors of the wall. All right, I get it. But then overall, I really do think it's funny in these communities because when I see the house on the outside, it still ends up looking like a cookie cutter house with the 50 others that are all right next to it. It's very odd to me. So I mean, right now the entire situation is a mess. People can't afford most of these houses in general, along with trying to pay for rent. Then we have new builds that are slapped with the luxury tag on their listing with the worst build quality possible. And if you want to dodge all of that and buy an older home and fix it up, at least from my experiences, that's not going to be cheap either. My dad has spent a ton of money on the upkeep of their home. So I don't know what the grand solution is for everybody. I guess it's a situation basis, but I mean, this kind of stuff has just got to stop. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. That's all I got for you guys today. YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on screen right now, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys later.